Okay, what's today's project? Today's project's beadlock day. We got these Vision wheels. Um, these are for Wranglers. Probably fit XJs and WJs as well, or ZJs. Anything that's got the 5-on-4.5 bolt pattern. Probably the old Rangers, Ford Rangers, and old Ford Explorers. Anything that's got that 5-on-4.5. These have got 4.25 backspace. I got two of them, kind of hard to see. I got two of them out there already on cardboard. I'm getting ready to put in a valve stem. This is a slime 1.25 inch. I already threw out stupid things. Where did I put that? Slime valve stems. Yeah, they're 1.25 inches. You can get these on Amazon. Relatively cheap. You have to buy three packs. And I got this tool. Put them on. It's pretty straightforward. See if I can do this. See if I can set you guys down in some way. Shit. My kid's borrowing my stupid tripod. But basically, your valve stem hole. Line up, you put your valve stem through your valve stem hole like so. And this threads onto your valve stem, and then it pivots, right? So you can pry it through, or pull it through. Yeah, it helps if you throw a little soapy water. I'm just using a little Windex. It pops through pretty easy. Sometimes you have to put something down to help you with a little bit of leverage so you don't mar up your wheel. I use a dead blow. It works really good. I have 2 wheels done already. We're going to do these wheels. And then I'll go ahead and knock out the last 3 wheels. And then I'll show you how I put my wheels, my tires on these wheels. But that's my chore today, is to mount some tires on these beadlocks. And again, these are the Vision wheels, beadlocks. I've seen a few people use these online, and there's plenty of people mounting these beadlocks on YouTube, so it's nothing special. I'm just going to show you how I do it real quick. You want to use these 1.25 inch valve stems with these, or you want to use a 90-degree, just because of the way they place the valve stem. It's really hard to get air chuck on these because of the way they put the valve stem in these wheels. I use a 90-degree, these 90-degree chucks when I do my air up, and I use them in my Jeep too. So it doesn't bother me much. Just make sure you use a short valve stem. And it's also keeps it from getting hit by rocks and tore up. I wish I could find a way to set you guys up so you can see how I do this. Let's see. Let me stop this, and then I can see if I can set you up. All right. Let's see if this works. So it's not super difficult. Got to thread the valve stem on. Like that. Take your soap, spray it a little bit on the back side. You guys are vibrating around, I apologize. You're sitting on a box, on top of a box, on top of another box, on top of another box. And then you put your hammer there, a little bit of pressure, and it pops in. There, like that. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. You just got to check. You got to check your backside and make sure it's seated. You're not going to be able to see that from here. You check your backside and make sure it's seated. Yeah, pretty easy. And then you just unscrew your valve stem tool and that's it. Easy peasy. Put your cap back on so you don't lose it. That's that. Easy enough. Can't get any easier than that. Not hard at all. Give it a tug, make sure it's in there, and you're done. My custom tripod, huh? Nothing but the best for you guys. Yeah, not only set this out on the box cardboard on the driveway for the next step. All right, this brings me kind of to my next step, or staging for the next step, and that is that I'm putting these things on cardboard. So the cardboard I'm doing is this cardboard. So I put this cardboard on top of the wheels to protect the wheels. So I'm using this cardboard as a sacrificial lamb to put underneath the wheels for when I put the tires on. So I'm just setting it down, setting the wheels on it, see? Staging it like a system. Then I'll take all the beads off and one at a time, pop the tires on. Then I'll do one at a time, put the rings on. So take the rings off. So you have to develop a system when you're doing this kind of stuff. So that's what I'm doing. And then you have to have a 5-gallon bucket to do this, but that's where I'm getting the cardboard from, is right off of what they ship with the tire, just sticking on the ground. Because when you force the tire on, which you'll see what I do here, you're going to want to have it on the ground. When you go through and you want to put the tire all the way on, you're going to want to put the rim on a 5-gallon bucket, which I'll show later on when I do this process. But first, on the ground to get the tire on. All right, well, here's the tires I'm using. This is a Mickey Thompson MTZ. This is a 37. The way I'm mounting these tires is I'm putting like a barcode on these tires. Let's see here. I don't know if I can get this in. There's a barcode right here. I don't know if you can see that. There's a barcode right here. I'm putting that on the inside so you don't see those. The first thing I'm doing is I'm putting some balancing BBs that I got off of Amazon. It takes 14 ounces of these. It's the first thing I'm doing, putting those in. And then I'll show you how I go through and get the tire on the wheel. So let me get the balancing BBs in. That's pretty straightforward. It's just a small measuring cup. It's a 30 mil, which is 14 ounces, or 1 ounce, excuse me, 30 mil. This chart comes with a chart, says 14 ounces, or 37, 1250. 1. Okay, so that's 14. That's pretty straight 14. It's a little bit more than enough. I've already done one tire off the camera, and I use Windex. This time I'm going to try PB Blaster. The Windex worked, but it was a little more difficult than I thought it would be. So I'm going to try the PB Blaster this time just to see. It's basically WD-40. I'm going to try this out real quick just to see how this works. Now there's no like balancing dots. Some of these tires have like little balancing dots on them. Like a little red dot on the tire. Kind of tells you manufacturing. Like the heavy spot on the tire. I don't see that on these tires. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this barcode where my valve stem is. So let's see if this works. If it doesn't work well, I'll go back to the Windex. I spray the wheel. I'm going to spray the tire. And I'm just going to let gravity help me to do this. Like that. There you go. And that worked actually way better than the Windex. The Windex, I had to use a pry bar for the last little bit of it. Now I'm gonna have to clean up a little bit of the WD-40, but that was way easier. Some people like to lift the wheel up and slam it into the tire. To me, you're risking damaging your tire, and I don't like that idea. This is way easier to me. Okay, that's how I get the tire on the wheel. Pretty straightforward. These are new to me wheels. Bought these used on the old Facebook. Yeah. For me, this is easier. Tires weigh, what, probably 100 pounds. I'm 6'1", I weigh 270. So, yeah, the physics worked in your best interest. Trying to throw a 40-pound aluminum wheel into a tire like that doesn't make sense to me. Physics makes more sense to try to, use my weight, 370 some odd pounds to push the wheel onto the tire. And yeah, the WD-40 might be not the greatest lubricant, but it's cheap. I always have a bunch of it, so yeah, that's how I get that on. So you see, I did this one with Windex. It worked fine. I'll probably use Windex to clean that wheel now. So that's probably what I'll do. That'll be my method of operation, because that didn't take that much lubrication. You saw how much I sprayed on there, wasn't that much. When I take my bolts out, I just take them out, throw them in a magnet tray, and throw them inside the box, throw my ring inside the box. And now it's time to throw them on a bucket and do the torque spec. I'll work on that, show you how that goes. Yeah, not bad. It's just time consuming. The next step is the time consuming part. All right, I got my 2 tires on the bucket. You can see over there's a gap on my front bead. What you gotta do before you get your ring on is you have to seat your bead. Your outer bead has to get seated around where the ring seat is. You can see that I have this little hair kind of sticking up. Kind of start with a flat tip to kind of get it close. And then take a dead blow. You kind of smack it and you see the hair kind of going away. Bam, right there. You're gonna have to kind of go around a couple times just to make sure, because as you can see, it popped off on that side. So you kind of have to work it a bit. It's not super easy. I have to spin this around. get my flat tip. Where'd my flat tip go? Oh, where'd you go? Get my flat tip screwdriver in here. So put my flat tip right there in the bead. And I just kind of work around. Get my dead blow. Not easy, but this is what you gotta do. You're trying to stretch the tire around this lip. Takes some work, but it has to happen. So that way your beadlock ring sits nice and flat. All right, let me work on this. All right, took me a hot minute to get that lip to go over that ring. Took a lot of flat tip screwdriver work to get that over. Next time I might sand some of that down a little bit before trying. Right now I'm just trying to get it seated some more. As you hit it, it goes down a little bit. So that way it's perfectly seated. Now I can put my ring on. So yeah, I got some more seating to do. That side looks a little higher. You can hear the tone change. It makes kind of like a louder clack when you get it down. Yeah. Now I'll get my ring on. All right, so full transparency. I started this project, like 2 days ago. And I had to stop. The reason I had to stop was if you get a tire where the bead is too thick, what it could do is it could warp your ring. You try to tighten down on it. And I ran into that. I was having a difficult time with this where I was trying to seat this, and I could tell the bead was too thick. So I had to get these spacers. I've never used these spacers before, and these were the spacers that were available from Vision. That's who makes these wheels. So I'm going to try these out. This is what these are 3.8 millimeter spacers. These were the only ones that Summit had. So we'll see how these work. But yeah, you gotta be careful. That one's a little bowed in because I didn't have the spacers, but not a lot. So we'll see how this goes. I hope it'll be all right. I'll just mark this one as a spare tire for now. These aren't very expensive. They're 17 bucks a wheel. They look cheesy. They come individually, and you know, they're made in China. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Anyways, yeah, we'll do this. There's no instructions for them, so I have the instructions on these wheels right here. So I'm going to follow the instructions. It doesn't say anything about having to need these spacers. The only reason I know that this sometimes is needed is because I've seen other videos of installing beadlocks, and other videos have said that is sometimes needed. Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to tighten these. Now, I'll probably film some of this when I tighten these, and some of you are going to probably freak out because I'm not going to do some crisscross pattern. I'm not going to do a crisscross pattern because it says to always sequence in a clockwise pattern. So it doesn't tell me to do crisscross. So I'm going to do what these wheels tell me to do, because Vision warranties these wheels, and this is what they want me to do. So I'm going to do what they want me to do. So I'm going to put this on a time lapse. I'm going to do this wheel, and then I'm going to do all the rest of the wheels, and then I'll get them on the Jeep and show you the finished product. And then I'm going to stab all these little short videos together, make one long video, and put it on YouTube. Hopefully you guys like it. Blow me up in the comments and complain about all the things I've done wrong. Anyways, thank you. All right, so what you saw me doing was torquing down my wheels according to the instructions here. I was torquing it 20 inch-pounds. I did 2 rounds for the second round, 2 rounds for the third round. Then I did 60 inch-pounds twice. I did 120 inch-pounds twice. And I did 120 inch-pounds twice. Then I did 240 inch-pounds, which is 20 foot-pounds twice. Then I removed my valve stem. Now I'm gonna air up the tire. Looks like the bead tried to seat already. We'll see how this goes. I removed my valve stem, and I have my air chuck attached. We'll see how this works. I haven't. Don't want to try that. I have like a little zip tie here. I don't know if this is gonna work right. We'll see here. Might have to. That's weird. All right. I'm gonna have to figure out that. My air chuck doesn't deflate. So I have to figure out a different way of doing that. Hold on. We have to put you on pause because that one doesn't work unless it has a Schrader valve in it. So we have to figure out a different air chuck. Well, I'm not sure what's happening here, but it's taken me a lot of effort to get this thing to do what I want it to do, which is get that bead to seat. So we'll see what's happening. I can't get it to add air with the Schrader valve out. I soaked it in Windex. So we'll see. I'll bring up the street pressure and see what it does. But yeah, I don't have the right tool. When I tried to do it before, it got up to like some crazy ass 60 pounds. Yeah, I'm seeing some bubbling right there. Let's see what happens. It needs a little bit of lubricant to get there. It's starting to look better though. Now that I sprayed it with Windex, it's starting to get closer to the bead. Usually, get a nice loud pop. I haven't gotten that yet, so. I'm almost at pressure already. God damn it. My kid likes to give water to the cats, so I'm always skipping the bowl. Anyways, I'm almost already at street pressure, so. Fun time. Anyways. I have one kid that likes to take my tripod for my YouTube stuff and use it for her YouTube stuff. One kid that puts things in the way for me to kick. And I'm always doing things in the driveway. We're almost at street pressure. So, let's take it to street pressure and see what happens. There we go. I'll take it to 32. See what happens. There we are. 32. No big dramatic pop on the rear bead. Ugh. Heavy. Well, that looks like a seated rear bead to me. Well, that's one done, I guess. 4 more to do. Yay me. Okay, well, I'll get to work. This video editing is gonna suck. All right, as I'm doing this, I'm learning some stuff and trying some things out. And I'm finding some tools that are making this a little more easy to do. One of them are these quick grips. I don't know if anybody's ever used these before, but they're like really more of a woodworking thing. But what I'm finding that is if you have them, they do a really good job of gripping on a tire. And you can use them to push this outer bead down around the sealing surface pretty easily. Which works way better than a dead blow in my opinion. As you can see, it also helps to work as a second hand when you're trying to get this to seat around, right? So I got it holding there, so use 2. I'm sure if you had like 3 or 4 of them, this would be even easier, but I'm finding this works significantly better than just smacking it with a dead blow and marring up your rim. Yeah. Just thought I would show this little clever idea I had. I'm sure somebody else has done this before. I'm not the smartest dude in the world, so I'm Sure, somebody's like, oh yeah, I've done that 15 times. Yeah. Yeah, anyways. Quick grip. Works great. Anyways, I'm almost done with number 2. Yeah, as you can tell with the sundial here, this isn't fast, but whatever. Great. Woohoo! Yeah. Okay, real quick before I put these wheels, these Beadlocks and 37s on my Jeep, I'm going to show why I'm using 1.25" wheel spacers. So these 35s are mounted on these methods. These methods are 3.5" backspace wheels with no wheel spacers. And as you can see with my sway bar, they get really close back here to this bolt that holds this Rock Jock sway bar. Now, the backspace on those Beadlocks are inch, or excuse me, not an inch. They're 5, or excuse me, misspeaking like crazy. They're 4.25. So that means I'm going to lose 1.25". So that means they're going to go 1.25" that way, closer to this sway bar. So I need a wheel spacer to keep them from getting closer to that link and to this bolt and nut. That's why I'm using wheel spacers. When you're running these TJs, it's difficult to find Beadlocks that have proper wheel spacing because they're so narrow at the axle. Here's another viewpoint. It's probably easier to see, but you can see that bulge and how close. Now, yes, this travels up and down with the tire. Again, I'm putting on a 37. This means I'm going to have 1 inch of diameter going up this way towards this bolt. So I'm going to go up 1 inch this way and then 1.25" towards that. That's too close to that for my comfort. Now, I ran Steelies with this tire. Now, they were 8 wides with these 35s, but they were 4" backspace. I couldn't even get them on with this sway bar. So that's why I even have these wheel spacers. I'm a pack rat. So when I went to these methods, I got rid of the wheel spacers, which are right there, and I kept them around, not knowing if I'll ever change these wheels out. Then I got these Beadlocks, and I'm like, well, these were inexpensive Beadlocks. They're not exactly 4.25, but, or not exactly a straight 4" backspace like the Steelies I was running, but they are 4.25. These are 1.25" wheel spacers, so I should end up being pretty good. It should be pretty close to being exactly like I am right now with these 35s when it comes to spacing. Also, with those Steelies, can't tell with these particular lower control arms because I've been running these 3.5" backspace rims. But when I was running the 4" backspace rim Steelies, I was rubbing on my lower control arms really badly, and I was wearing the paint off of them. So again, these factory width TJ axles are really narrow. They're 60 inches. So you kind of need a 3.5" backspace rim. The 4" backspace rims are not gonna cut it. That's why a lot of guys like to go to a wider axle. One, you get better steering, you get better scrub radius. You just get a lot more improvement in performance. I don't have the money for that, so this is what I have the money for because I already have these. In the future, I might change this arm that does this curve to a straight arm. I don't know why Rock Jock does this, but this is what it came with. In hindsight, this particular sway bar's caused me a lot more problems than good. So, but it's here. I spent the effort to put it on, so it's on. So now it's time to get these tires that I spent all this time and effort getting mounted and balanced, because I'm running balancing beads. They're all here. Not that one, that's for the Blazer. There's the other one on that Jeep. So the next time I turn this camera on, all 5 of these will be on the Jeep. Yay. All right, not done, but here's the difference between 35s, 37s on a stock wheelbase TJ. Not a lot, right? A little bit. Looks pretty good. And again, this has those 1.25" wheel spacers. See, it's about the same. About the same. As you can see, a little bit more of a poke out, probably 1/2 inch. Yeah, not much of a difference with that poke out. So, some will say, buy the right backspace to begin with. Well, when you're balling on a micro budget, you can't afford those. These were $1,600 for a set of 5. That's why I bought these. I already had the wheel spacers. That's why I bought these. Instead of dropping $3,000 on a set of wheels. How well will these work out? Fuck, I don't know. Paid $1,200 for the tires used on Facebook Marketplace. They're newer than mine. The guy said they had 500 miles on them. Look at the hair on them. So sometimes you gotta, you know, look at that. Look how nice these tires are. You can tell they've been driven up. Mine are all trunked up. Mine are 8 years old. So I got lucky to get in these tires. Got these wheels from Summit for a good price, military discount. I think they were like $16.09 to my door. Can't beat these. Shannon Campbell runs these wheels. If he can run them, I can run them. Good enough for a Hall of Fame off-road racer. Good enough for me. Yeah, just thought I'd show. It's kind of cool, huh? Difference between a 35 and a 37 on a stock wheelbase TJ. Yeah, let me wrap this up. Get these other 3 tires on. All right, we'll have to disrupt it real quick. Lots of people walking around my neighborhood, a lot of drive-by, so all the wheels are on, all 4. I didn't put a spare on. I don't think my back will let me do that. So there's a retorque sequence after you drive 50 miles, you retorque the outer rings, and then after every 200 miles, you retorque the outer ring. And then the spacers, after the first 50 miles, you retorque the spacers. Then after every oil change or tire rotation, you retorque those as well. Yep, pretty simple. That's what they look like. Family's home, but not too bad. That's that. Pretty easy. Well, not easy. Back breaking. My back's not gonna let me do the spare tire, so I'll do that another day.